back to Think I'll Take It From Here, the podcast where we explore the stories that stay with us long after we close the book, leave the theater, or turn off the TV. I'm Cammie, and today's astrology special is dedicated to the werewolf we can't seem to escape, Jacob Black. From fixing Bella's motorcycle to imprinting on her baby, Jacob is one of the most polarizing characters in the saga. You either think he's misunderstood, or you think he's a walking red flag in a tank top. Today, we're unpacking his chart to figure out if he's driven by destiny, delusion, or just really bad timing. And as always, I'm joined by our resident astrologer, Kat, to help us figure it out.
Hey, Cammie. I'm really excited for this episode. I've really been looking forward to it.
Yes, I cannot wait to get into all the messy tea that you have about Jacob Black. But let's actually talk about who Jacob is in the books and in the movies, because there is so much to unpack with him. I feel like he's that friend who thinks being there for you means you owe him emotional rent, right? Like, he's warm and loyal, but he's also like one temper tantrum away from a complete meltdown. And Bella is, for some reason, drawn to that. And which I'm not surprised. I feel like Bella is like a magnet for the supernaturals. Like Jacob, Edward, Victoria. What's the other guy's name?
James.
James.
And the Volturi.
Even the Volturi. Like it's like they all kind of orbit around her. And I don't know what it is about her that attracts them. I really wish she could have attracted something else. Like maybe a therapist, like, you know, a better parental figure. Just something else. She needed to attract something else. But in all seriousness, I feel like that's kind of a classic trope that you get in fiction. You know, there's always that one human who attracts supernaturals, and it shows up in stories because I think it says something about us. Like, we are obsessed with the unknown. We're obsessed with fantasy, and that something extraordinary might find us or choose us or even fix us. But then there's also that flip side, right? Where we see ourselves sometimes as the monsters. And when these people pick us, when they choose us, it gives us hope that someone can still love us despite our flaws, right? And I think that's a really, at the core, that is what a lot of kind of monster stories, vampire stories touch upon throughout the centuries. So with all of that being said, I would love to get into Jacob's chart and what you were able to find. And is he messy? Did the stars make him messy? Is he delulu? Like, why is he this way?
Oh my gosh, you're cracking me up. So basically, I would say a bit. We'll go there. But I will say that when I first pulled Jacob's chart, it's juicy. It's really juicy. And I actually don't have any notes prepared for today. So this is a fresh reading, like I've pulled the chart for the first time. So I'm really excited for us to get into it. Basically, I don't even know where to start. So I'm just going to kind of start as like Jacob's personality, who he is as a person and a character. And then we'll start to make some connections to the other Twilight characters and everything like that. Okay. So yeah. So Jacob has a lot of earth in his chart. He actually has a Capricorn stellium. And if you remember from our previous episodes, a stellium is when you have multiple planets in the same sign, especially with the sun. So Jacob has a Capricorn sun, a Mercury in Capricorn retrograde. And usually for any people I do a reading for, if they have Mercury retrograde in their chart, they get a hall pass. I'm like, oh, you know what? Like, your life is messy. Oh, you're not good at communicating. Oh, you can't express yourself properly. And Mercury's retrograde. You have a hall pass. So
now, I just want to add. I think, yes, there's all of that, and we give him a hall pass because of that. But I think as a society, we have given him a hall pass because of his abs.
Right. Yeah. And
Like
his tattoo, his
it's
like,
yeah,
yeah.
it's the tattoo, it's the six pack, like it's all of the things.
Yeah. It's like the what is it? The teenage angst and
Yes.
like the frustration, like the sexual frustration and like,
Yes.
oh, like where's my Jacob Black in the world and stuff like that, you know. I don't know. Like that's just a rule of thumb, you know, usually when I'm doing a reading, I'm like, oh, do you have problems with this area? Do you struggle for these reasons? Well, it makes sense because Mercury was retrograde when you were born. So we can see that for Jacob Black. But that's not it. You know, he has his Saturn in Capricorn, which is always a really strong placement because Saturn rules Capricorn. And then also Uranus and Neptune in Capricorn as well. So really any millennial will have that placement. That's when you really zoom out and it becomes more of like the generational planets and stuff. But it still says a lot because that's 5 planets in Capricorn. So, really, what that means when we're working with Capricorn energy, it's our cardinal earth of the zodiac. So, it's the initiator of the season of winter. And any earth signs are very practical and grounded and very like matter of fact. I feel like they're very concerned with the material realm, the physical realm. So, I feel like this really does show up in Jacob's character in terms of like, no, Bella, like stay human, you know, like don't enter the world of the like unliving dead and everything. Like, you know, you got to bring it back down to earth. So I feel like that really shows up for him in that way. But Capricorns are also very driven and very ambitious because they're ruled by Saturn. They're very oriented around like structure, boundaries, rules, that type of thing. And I feel like throughout this series, Jacob tries to show up as that voice of reason and trying to like talk Bella off the cliff, you know, which didn't
So
help her at all.
she still found herself off the cliff.
She just flung
Liter-
herself forward. She's
literally,
like, I'm not.
literally and figuratively, she found herself off the cliff.
Exactly. So he did his best, but you know, it didn't really work in his favor on several occasions, I would say. But yeah, I feel like that kind of gives him that like stern, serious, like again, like he gets very frustrated with Bella because, you know, she's not following the rules or, you know, because maybe she doesn't want to end up with her before, you know, she has her child that he imprints on and everything, which is another story. And that actually shows in his chart too. So
I am very interested to know how imprinting shows up on someone's chart so I can avoid that type of personality around me.
So it's actually really interesting. And I want to remind everyone, you know, we're not able to pull the full chart for these characters because we don't have the time of birth. So we're just looking at the planetary placements. But still, I'm really happy with everything that I've been able to find here. So, also similarly to our previous episodes, if we can remember, you know, there was this really strong bond between Edward and Bella because they shared the same sun and moon sign. And so if I'm remembering correctly, because I don't have their charts in front of me right now, Edward was a Gemini and Bella was a Gemini moon.
Yeah,
So
that's
having
correct.
that, like, yeah, having that kind of like, this is who I am externally, but internally with the moon sign, this is who I am inside of myself. So this was the connection I was able to make for the love triangle, but then also the imprinting because Jacob has a Virgo moon and Bella was a Virgo sun, both in her human life and her vampire life. And Renesmee is also a Virgo. So they have that same type of bond, but like reverse, where it's Bella's sun sign and Renesmee's sun sign, like who they are, what they embody, and what they present to the world. But internally is Jacob. So it's kind of like the reverse and flip-flopped basically where they're kind of having that same dynamic. It's just in the reversed roles. And like, yeah, saying that a lot is like kind of freaky.
Interesting. You know what line from Twilight is playing in my mind as you're talking? I don't know if you remember when Jacob was like, "What am I, not the right kind of monster for you, Bella?" Do you remember that?
trying to remember, like, which one was that? Was that an eclipse? Was that in Breaking Dawn?
I think it was in New Moon when she confronted him about being a monster. And she was like, "You're not like Edward, you're not like them, you kill people." And he's like, "We're not killing anyone, Bella." He said something like that. He was done. He was like so mad that she was kind of being a hypocrite and judging him for being a werewolf, because at that time there were people disappearing or something.
Okay.
And I think Bella thought it was all the werewolves that were killing people, and it's,
Mhm.
it was actually vampires or whatever. But she was just like very upset with him, and she was like, "You're the one killing people, you're not like them." And first of all, Edward has killed people, and he told you he killed people like a couple months ago from when you said that. Literally, Edward said to Bella that he killed people, and she was like, "I don't care."
Mm.
But I guess she draws the line at Jacob killing people.
She must. Yeah. I don't know. And I mean, I guess that's like the Virgo coming into play, like that innocent, that purity, like, no, like, don't kill anyone or don't kill anyone like this. Or I don't know. I'm not really interested in going in the mind of Bella Swan and justifying her thought process and critical thinking and executive decision making skills.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, and I've gotten this question a lot. People want to know what sign is most compatible with Jacob. Is it like, is it a Cancer? Is, you know what I'm saying? Like, people have been asking that question a lot. I don't know why we are wondering this, why we are wondering this so long after the films have come out, but we're going to answer that for you today.
Yeah. Okay, great question. Very fun question. And I love it. It's no pressure because this is all hypothetical and these are all make believe characters. But I would say two signs stand out the most to me. One, I actually would say Cancer. And the reason why is because Cancer and Capricorn are sister signs, like opposite signs of the zodiac. So they kind of are like night and day type of energy. And so Capricorn, because it's that earth sign, it's a little bit more like stern and rigid. The Cancer would bring in like the softness and like the nurturing, but also the like the empathy and the understanding. Like, let me hold you, like, let me bring you into my nest. You can feel this way, that's okay. And I'm just going to balance that out. Because Cancers are just naturally very nurturing and family oriented, and they want to be of support. They're natural caretakers, basically. But the other one I would say is actually Aquarius, because Jacob's Venus is in Aquarius. Also retrograde. He has a few planets retrograde. So Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter is all retrograde, and his Jupiter is in Cancer too, which I can share a little bit about what that means. But yeah, I feel like because he has this Venus Aquarius, like anytime that we have our Venus placement in a certain sign, we're naturally attracted to that energy. Because Venus represents what we love and what our preferences are and our love language and our values and our comfort zone, basically. And so with him having Venus in Aquarius, Aquarius is very much like a free thinker. It's very innovative. It's very progressive. But it's also ruled by Saturn. So I feel like that's also a really great balance with Capricorn too, because, Capricorn has that like very like dense energy. And then with that Aquarius, which is actually an air sign, not a water sign, it has a lot more openness and rebellious nature in a way. But again, it's also really interesting because he has Venus retrograde, and he also has his North Node of Destiny in Aquarius too. But I feel like, when Bella's trying to be out here all wild and reckless and stuff, like Jacob had something to say about it. He's trying to like ground her and be like, don't do that. Why would you do that? Are you crazy? Like, where the hell have you been, Luca? Like all of that energy. But anyway, I feel like because of that retrograde, but also that Saturn ruled energy of Aquarius, he would be able to maybe become more open-minded from that type of connection. Maybe he could be like taught, or he can learn to be more like kind of relax a little bit and not be so like, oh, you know? So those would be my two top guesses. And just to close it off, because I mentioned the Jupiter in Cancer retrograde, like I feel like Jacob wants to be a certified lover boy so much, but because of these retrogrades in both Venus and Jupiter, it's blocking him from being able to access that energy in terms of like being very soft, being very understanding, compassionate, supportive. And I feel like he was supportive to an extent, but not in like, you know, they obviously didn't end up together and stuff like that. And we didn't get another part of the saga to know how that relationship unfolds with Renesmee and him. But you know, Jupiter is the planet of abundance and expansion, and it's a really feel-good planet. It's very fortuitous. But when we have that retrograde in Jupiter, all of that external expansion is actually inward. So I feel like he has a lot of repressed emotions, and because of the Venus retrograde, he's not able to express them or even identify them, you know. And it's definitely very common for earth signs, honestly, earth signs, fire signs, and air signs. When it comes to emotions and feelings, they would rather not. So I feel like that's what Jacob Black has as well, especially because his sun and moon are both earth signs too. It would probably be more about intellectualizing his feelings or disassociating from them, distracting himself in a way. So because he doesn't really have that emotional maturity, and especially at his age, you know, we have to remember we're talking about teenagers too, you know, because that really hasn't developed for him in this part of his life. He's really not in a position to establish a long-lasting, lifelong partnership romantically. I'm not going to say that, you know, according to the stars, it's not written for him. And again, especially because like his moon sign is Virgo and Renesmee is Virgo, and like whatever happens, I honestly don't really like what to know, you know? But anyway, I don't think that it's like a done deal that he's destined to be alone and have like failed relationships and stuff like that. But reading this from a teenager's perspective, he has a lot of room to grow.
Interesting. Hearing you talk about, you know, the compatibility has me kind of thinking about the fact that Renesmee and Bella's birthdays are so close. So I'm imagining their charts are very similar. And if that's the case, that means Jacob would be like basically dating one is like dating the other.
It's interesting. It's like a specific type of like mommy issue or something, which is interesting because he does not have a mother character in Twilight, you know. So maybe he has mommy issues, and this is the way that it's all like playing out for him. But I mean, I don't know. The saving grace would be pulling Renesmee's chart, because that's the last thing I haven't done yet. You know, between these four characters that we've been exploring and stuff, because the good thing, or at least the separation between the two, would be because of the years in between. The planets have shifted, you know, like the outer planets would definitely look different. But the personal planets is what I also question too, because you never know when you're talking about like Mercury, Venus, Mars, that type of thing. They don't, they travel pretty closely to like the sun's orbit and stuff. So, you know, I'm very curious, and I'm wondering the same thing too now.
You are gonna have people screaming in my DMs for us to do Renesmee now. So thank you for that, Kat.
Why
No,
I'm here. You're welcome.
I already know it's coming. You guys have been asking for Jacob, and it's finally happening. We will plan for Renesmee. We will do it. We will do it. But I want to know like your final thoughts on what Jacob's chart says about him overall. How do you imagine he could kind of show up as a partner, you know, for Renesmee, or as, I guess, Edward's son-in-law? And
Please.
Bella's unhinged. Like how that could look.
Oh my gosh. Well, side note, it's funny because he has 0 Gemini placement. So that's kind of where Edward would fall in there and stuff. So that also makes sense because they clash So they don't have a lot of, similar placements.
So they could continue to clash.
They could continue to clash, absolutely. I can't remember if it was Edward or Bella who has like the Lilith in Scorpio. I actually feel like that maybe was Edward, but Jacob has that placement as well. So I feel like they both kind of have that underbelly of mystical creatures and, playing that out in real life. I'm not really sure, but
so basically,
overall,
Jacob is going to have in-law drama.
I mean, the way that it's looking and like the retrogrades that he has, again, with all of the Capricorn that I'm seeing, you can't really tell him differently. Like normally stubbornness is a trait that comes up more for the fixed signs, but also for the earth signs as well. And I can go on an entire tangent about that, but I won't. But because he has so much earth energy, like he really needs to feel like he's in charge, basically.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of giving like cockfight a little bit, like, like who's the alpha, that type of thing.
It's a plot point that gets explored in the books.
Exactly. And I'm seeing the visual of him just like ripping off his shirt and like turning into a werewolf and like running into the forest like that.
In the rain.
Right, exactly. But overall, I mean, you say he's a walking red flag, and I see that he really does mean well. Like he wants to do good. He wants to be of support, but I feel like he doesn't have the support or that nurturing container to actually grow into these traits. And I'm not going to say that he won't, but again, as a teenager, I feel like he's very set in his ways. He's really only conditioned from the upbringing that he has, especially if it is like, a single parent with a disability that he has to care for, that type of thing. And then what his role is in his community and his tribe, especially because he's growing into a life that maybe he doesn't want for himself or he didn't see for himself. It's like, well, guess what? You're a werewolf and you have these responsibilities, and whether you like it or not, that's the life that you're here to live. So I feel like he's definitely fine within those roles that are assigned to him, which doesn't give him a lot of that room to grow, and that actually like gave me chills when I said it. But I feel like that might be part of his assignment, really, especially because of this North Node of Destiny in Aquarius, which is the sign following Capricorn. So it's kind of like he's here with this like dominant energy of this cardinal earth Capricorn energy, but he is here to evolve and step into more of that like progressive, even rebellious freedom seeker or freedom fighter, that type of thing. Which, I mean, actually putting it into where we are now in the world, he would probably be, this would be the time to do it because Pluto's in Aquarius and we're needing all of the Aquarius placements to step up to the front lines to rearrange our society that's more in balance and in flow for the collective as a whole, and not what we're used to seeing, which is where Pluto was in Capricorn, which are all very like oppressive systems that are only built to benefit a certain few on the backs of the many and everything like that. And so, yeah, I feel like there is kind of there. I know that there is that internal struggle because he has these planets retrograde for himself. So it's like, do I live up to this image of what my family says I need to be, what my heritage is, and like passing this on and being the, like holding the wisdom in my culture, or like breaking free and being his own person and allowing himself to define that for himself, I feel like is really his challenge in this life. And, saying that out loud, I feel like the whole Twilight saga is just a projection of that, like is his internal struggle and why he loses it all and gets so frustrated and all of these things. Because again, he doesn't have that space from anyone to see him in this way and support him in this way. And yeah, he didn't have his own astrologer to be like, this is your problem, Jacob, not the Cullens.
Yeah. It's interesting hearing you say how his life is very structured in that he always has had a lot of responsibility, right? And I feel like when you think about his responsibility with having a father who has a disability and then also taking care of Bella, who had some mental health issues that she was experiencing, I wonder if for him, he needs to feel needed. And I think it will be interesting, like exploring him with Renesmee, because Renesmee could take care of herself. You know, like I don't think she's going to need him in the way that, you know, his pack needed him, his father needed him, Bella needed him. So I think it would be interesting to see his story expand in that way and see how he deals with not being needed, right? And just actually being able to exist, you know, and maybe even have it. See, this is why he needs a Cancer girl. This is it.
Right. There it is.
Cancers and Aquarius, stand up.
Come click Team Jacob. Come claim your man. He's out here fighting in the trenches for you, for himself. Like, absolutely. And I would even say to that point as well, you know, his Virgo moon, Virgos are very of service. You know, they're the other signs of the zodiac that really need to help people and fix things, solve things, that type of thing. And yeah, I get, and then, and like the last thing too, because like the Capricorn is just like really blaring out at me as I look at his chart. But, you know, Saturn also does represent that like parental figure, that father figure and stuff. So it's like he wants to be daddy so bad.
And we'll see if the story gets expanded and if anything happens with that. But
yeah.
Thank you so much, Kat, for joining me on another episode of this astrology series. It's always a great time to reconnect with you and talk about these characters in a new light. If you guys have any other characters you're interested in Kat doing reading for, slide in my DMs, let me know. And Kat, can you talk a little bit about if you have any specials going on, what your schedule is looking like, anything like that? Because the holiday season is coming up. So.
Exactly. So I do want to share that my Unearth It signature reading is available, and they also make really great gifts for the holidays too. So if you're wanting me to read your chart, similarly to how I read Jacob's or how I have with Edward and Bella, I'm absolutely available. You can connect with me on Patreon and on Instagram at Moon Valley Astrology. And I did actually just launch a digital download called an astrograph. So if you're really ready to learn more about your personal astrology and your birth chart and needing a practical tool to help you break it down in a simple way that's not too overwhelming, I've designed something for you for that. So for anyone who buys my astrograph on my Patreon shop, I'll also throw in a free cosmic consultation to help you get it all set up. So that's what's available. And it's always such a fun time coming on here and reading about what the stars have to say about these characters, especially since we grew up with them and they have this extra layer underneath from how we know them. But then it's really crazy so far how their birth charts really do say a lot about them to affirm how they were written and also like what else might be going on behind the scenes too. So thank you so much as always for having me. Yeah.
And also being able to, you know, use this information to think about how this world can be expanded. And I think that's one of the really great things I love about these episodes that I have with you is that we're able to explore these characters in a new light. And again, really appreciate you. Everything that Kat mentioned on top of her socials, I will be linking it in the show notes. So be sure to check them out there. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Take It From Here Pod. This has been another episode of Things I'll Take It From Here. Bye.